everyone, welcome to GameFace. This is actually not a numbered episode of GameFace. This is a special one-off, special edition of GameFace where we're just going to discuss the Game Awards and all the big announcements. This is our last stream of 2019, and it's actually a combo stream. So we're going to do this very short, very fun episode of GameFace, and then we're going to stop down, dip to black, wait a minute or two, and then come back up and do our Game of the Year awards for 2019. So here we are in GameFace. We really just have one topic for this episode, and we're going to talk about the Game Awards. Obviously, a huge event that happened late last week. I'm glad we're getting here early to be able to talk about it before it's kind of yesterday's news. What are your overarching opinions of the show in general?
I think the reveals and the trailers and presentation are top-notch. I think the awards part is hilariously laughable.
Do you think it's better than last year, than how they handled it last year? It seemed like there were more awards on the air.
A little bit. I still don't think they... If you want me to take those awards seriously, you have to take them seriously yourselves. And, like, having Jeff stand up there and list off minor award categories like like the Micro Machines guy.
Some of them aren't even minor though.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are big.
Well, some are like, Disco Elysium comes up and gets best. I think it was best narrative,
and then they just shove in.
By the way, they also get best RPG. It's like best RPG is an also they get. Like, that's crazy.
Shouldn't best RPG be the one that you actually focus on, and then say best narrative is the sidecar?
It's just like it's so weird. I mean, I know we're all here because it's advertainment. It's a commercial. You're here to watch the trailers, premieres, and the new consoles and stuff. But, like, if you really wanted me to believe that this is an awards show first, which seems to be the PR line for this, you got to treat the awards like they're a reason to care, and they don't.
Do you think they'll ever get there? Because Jeff has his finger on the pulse. He knows what the feedback is on the Game Awards. He knows that this is something people have complained about for a while. But
he also knows that it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like people tune in for the commercials, for the trailers and the reveals. You can do whatever you want with these awards, and no one will stop watching next year. I mean, we're here for the news. We're not here for the honors.
I think the awards are there for the industry because if he doesn't give out hardware to prominent developers and publishers, then they are less likely to want to work with him on future shows. They're far less likely to show up. Mm-hmm. So it's like...
I would also say there's a little, like, you're still a little in the dark on the selection process because you're dealing with, like, a certain I don't know who is the judge panel. I understand it's fairly large, 50 or 60 people on a panel or something. But here's the thing. I'm very happy Disco Elysium won 4 awards. But they won Debut Indie, Best Narrative, and Best RPG, and they were not nominated for Game of the Year, but Outer Worlds, which won nothing, was.
Yeah.
So,
consistency,
what is this?
Consistency is tough. I mean,
it is, but the reason that Disco Elysium wasn't nominated for Game of the Year because too many people in the judging panel didn't play it because it was a PC exclusive.
Yeah.
Next year, when it hits consoles,
all of a sudden,
everyone's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this game! I missed this." Of course, you missed this game because you don't play anything on PC.
I'll say this.
And I'm not a PC snob. I'm just saying, like, you run into that all the time where, like, a great game hits PC only and just no one pays attention to it. That's why it's great that Untitled Goose Game was also on the Switch.
Yeah.
Because people actually played
You're
it.
right. That's a good point. It is difficult when you're giving out a ton of awards to maintain consistency. In fact, yesterday when I was putting together my picks for our Game of the Year awards, I spent hours, like, going back and forth looking, because we're also doing a top 10 games of 2019 video that will go up like later in the holiday. I had to make sure that there weren't any conflicts of interest between that and our awards. I had to make sure that there weren't any conflicts of interest across the awards. It's very hard. It was very hard when I did it at Game Trailers and everywhere else that I've done it. So I do forgive a couple slip-ups here and there, but that is a glaring sort of problem there. What about the musical guests? What did you think of them?
I mean, they're very high quality.
I didn't even know Grimes was going to be there, and I know most people probably have no idea who she is. I love Grimes. I didn't even know she was going to be at the show until literally the show's going, and I'm like typing out the show log in the comments on Sifted, and they're like, "In Grimes." I was like, "What? I love Grimes. I love games. I know the Game Awards. I didn't even know she was going to be there. Was it maybe a surprise because it was Cyberpunk?"
Yeah. I mean, I don't, and also, like, who knows how long that took to finalize?
Yeah,
you know?
that was I hate that she lip synced, because the weird part is she never does that. Like, she is a great performer. Like, she creates all her music. She sings all her music. Like, she does everything. She produces everything. And it's weird for her to perform that way, but that integration with Cyberpunk, that was a really cool performance as far as how they integrated the game into
it's a cool performance. I don't know if we needed to spend 5 minutes on it with no new footage or anything of the actual game.
Yeah.
My other thing is that he introduced that bit by saying, like, you know, how music is obviously one of the most important parts of games, but best score original soundtrack was not in the main show. It was in the pre-show.
Yeah.
Like, which is it? You know, like, that's the thing, is like, I don't have any issue with the production value is top notch. The musical numbers are top notch, although Green Day's connection to games is a little tenuous. Churches made a lot more sense because the Death Stranding connection and all that. I mean, everyone I know who went was thrilled they got to see Green Day live, but like, and I know they're like related to Beat Saber, but it's like
really loosely,
like,
like they're just about to release a couple songs for Beat Saber. That's,
But like, but all that is like good. It's just like, I don't know. Like, and the Muppet thing is great. Like that. I mean, I didn't think.
I really thought the show was awesome. Yeah, I just want to make sure I get that out there.
The problem is, like, the award parts are the weak link.
Yeah,
and
it's an award show.
And it's
the Game Awards.
It's a commercial. Like, but like, it's just, if you want this to be taken seriously as an award show, you have to take the awards seriously. That's like my main criticism, really.
Do you think it was too long?
No,
I got to about the 90-minute, almost 2-hour mark, and I started looking at the watch because there
was like an hour and a half left.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying.
It's like, a 4-hour show.
It's really long.
I mean, award shows are like that.
It's really long.
It is,
and there's a lot of fluff in there. Like, do we really need like all these indie studio reveals in it? Like,
well, I mean, it depends. Like, if you want to kind of pare it down to like bigger stuff, you could do that probably next year. I feel like this year he had the best show he could possibly put together.
It was great.
Because you only had so many people, so many things. I mean, he had a console reveal, which is crazy.
Yeah.
He showed the first PS5 game. Like,
you know, we're gonna get to the reveals.
Jeff, like, put together the absolute best set of reveals you could possibly have in December 2019.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a phenomenal piece of show stacking, basically.
Yeah, I thought the show was great. You know, obviously I have a couple nitpicky issues that
I think as a commercial product, it was exceptional. As an awards show, it was rather lackluster.
And look at the crowd is full now.
Yeah, crowd's full. I've
had several people tell me that a lot of the crowd was paid, but
yeah, but the other nice thing is, like, the front of the crowd there, when they pan over the front of the crowd, I recognize almost everyone in those first 3 rows.
Yeah. They got the right people up there.
So it looks legit. It looks like the luminaries are there.
Yep.
You get to see all these people you like in games kind of all rubbing shoulders, which is very Oscar-ish.
Yep.
So that's well done. Like,
just having the crowd, though, because last year when they would do the crowd shots, like, the whole back half of the arena was empty. Not this year.
Well, the trick they did here is they just didn't light the mezzanine.
It's all blacked out back there.
So that's solid.
And they also made sure everybody sat down below instead of up in the mezzanine.
I do think they should mic the crowd.
Yeah.
Because it sounds too quiet, even though, like, if you're there, I'm sure it isn't. But, like, it sounds like no one's reacting to the jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
That would be my main thing, mic the crowd. The other thing is, like, I don't know if Jeff as the host makes a lot of sense. I realize that it's the point is for him to host these things.
It's his show.
It's his show. But, like, my main thing would be, like, the production value is so high now, and, like, the new hotness in award shows is pretty much no host.
No host, yeah. Because there was all those controversies around the Oscars, and they were like, you know what? We just won't have a host. We'll have different people that come up to present.
And it might, it's either that or, like, maybe consider, I know you have a lot of the esports stuff because they think that that's necessary to get eyeballs on it or get people, the esports guys to retweet it, and they have huge followerships and stuff. But it's like, if you're just going to stand up there and read it off like a recipe, like, and not even have anyone do, like, a video acceptance speech or anything, like, I don't know who these people are. It feels like you're rushing through your vegetables to get to the next trailer, and, like, the awards really mean something. You shouldn't be doing that. And I know that just makes the show longer.
Yeah.
But, like, maybe cut a couple trailers for indie things nobody cares about and treat these awards like they actually mean something.
I think that's fair. All right, let's actually talk about all the reveals because there were a ton. I will say this, when I was preparing for this episode and gathering B-roll and kind of figuring out what we were going to talk about, I think the impression I had after the show ended watching it live, I had a better impression of the reveals than after I actually kind of collected all the big ones and put them together. They're still amazing. Like, he did an incredible job and undoubtedly got as much as he could ever get at this time of year in the game industry, and in this period too. Before we're switching to a new generation and everything, I think he did a great job. But let's talk about the biggest one, and just a total shocker to me that this was there.
Yeah, I would never have called this
Xbox Series X. We finally have the name of the next Xbox. It's not Xbox 2. It's not Scarlet.
It's just Xbox.
Yeah. I guess it is they've just kind of gone just back to Xbox. They're just going to call things Series whatever.
Yeah, so I would expect a Series, I think we're looking at Anaconda here.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if the Lockhart was Series S.
Yep, I said the same thing.
And I bet you'll get us like a Series C or something for cloud for the one with no disk drive.
Yep. I agree 1,000. In fact,
and that means that is a generation-proof naming system.
I had that epiphany when I was shooting the latest round of Pactor Factor. The new episode of Pactor Factor is up, by the way, where he also talks about the Game Awards and Xbox Series X. So if you want his take, head on over to the site when our stream is done, and you can check that out. But I had that epiphany when I was talking to him about it. I was about the name, and I was like, wait a minute, like Xbox One X, Xbox One S, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S is probably coming. So you're right. I think Lockhart is probably going to be called Xbox Series S.
They've gone from the X-Bone to the Xbox Sex.
Yeah.
So
what do you think of the name, though? I
mean, it gets it done. Who cares what the name of things are, really?
Once the Wii
can sell,
all bets were off after the Wii.
I just hope it can lay down. I guess it can.
Yeah, it absolutely can lay down. That was my biggest concern after seeing this trailer, and it was very quickly confirmed. I think GameSpot did an interview with Phil Spencer where he was like, "Yeah, you can set it sideways." But what do you think of that? I mean, it's not even a design; it's just a parallelogram.
It looks like a monolith. It looks like a monolith from 2001, like thicker.
I mean, have we just gotten to the point where form factors just don't really matter anymore? I mean, is this Microsoft saying, you know what, nobody cares anymore? I mean, they kind of did that with Xbox One, to be honest.
Somewhat. I mean, it is true. Nobody cares. I mean, have I ever not bought a system because of its like physical aesthetics? Of course not.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. I mean, it's nice when they look cool or whatever. Also, like, I don't know. Like, maybe Microsoft knows more about, research than I do. And this is what the kids want. Like, kids want something simpler, something boxier. Like, what we think of as futuristic is not what futuristic is anymore.
It's a foot tall.
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest Xbox ever.
If you stand it vertically, it's 12 inches high.
I have a friend of mine online, did the calculations for volume, and it is by volume and mass the largest Xbox, even bigger than the original.
Bigger than the OG one. I mean, it makes sense. With all that, you need a lot of cooling and things like that.
Yeah, he actually theorized that it might be mostly empty space in there to keep the cooling going.
It could be. I'm like you. I don't really care about form factor all that much as long as it's functional. So as long as this thing will fit in my entertainment center, which I'm not 100% sure, looking at kind of the slots in my entertainment center, if that sucker's going to fit in there, even sideways.
Yeah, it's a question.
But I don't really care. It seemed like most of the feedback on the form factor was not great, but I don't think it really matters.
No. If you wait a few years, it'll probably be a skinnier one anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it basically is just a PC shuttle tower. Yeah. It's just a smaller tower PC.
It's basically a TriCaster box.
It is kind of, yeah. It's about the size. Actually, it's bigger than our TriCaster.
Bigger than TriCaster. Yeah. It's taller.
But, I don't really have a problem with the name, I think. It's not great. I just hope that Microsoft sticks with this, and that's it. Like, Xbox Series, whatever.
Yeah, I think they will.
Just keep going. Like, we don't need weird names anymore. Of course, they're going to have, development names and dev kit names and things like that. But the final product, let's find something and stick with it, I think. I think it's smarter for consumers, too. I think it'll be better for Microsoft in the end. Any other thoughts on Xbox Series X? I mean, all we got really was the form factor in the name.
Not really. I mean,
no more details other than that.
Form factor, and we saw a game, and that's about it.
Yep. Speaking of which, that game, Hellblade 2, Senua's Raid, or Senua's Saga. Are you surprised there's a sequel coming for Hellblade? It's the first game after Microsoft acquired Ninja Theory.
No, I mean, it's Ninja Theory's most praised game in maybe forever, and it's definitely their property that I think could benefit the most from some real expansion and budget boosting.
It's a great game, without a doubt. If you guys remember, this was what Ninja Theory called the first AAA indie.
Right.
That was kind of what they were banning
and they
about.
also announced this week that in conjunction with this, they're starting this charity drive thing,
which is
for
great.
mental illness, because famously the first game used a lot of actual consulting from mental illness experts to kind of portray her psychosis, and it looks like they're really doubling down on that in this one. So it should be very interesting to see how they kind of up the scale, but also keep the thoughtfulness.
Also, first confirmed in-game
Yeah, and that's
Xbox
what,
Series X footage.
This is what launch games will look like on this thing.
Which is pretty freaking
good.
amazing. It's like really good.
I'm honestly the thing
Look
that
at
like
the mouth, teeth.
the mouth and how the lips curl around the teeth is like what I'm like. That is crazy.
I
Like,
don't know if I can
amazing.
see that happen in real time. That's a lot of work.
There's no reason it can't.
I mean, it would just. I don't think it would be a launch game if that were the case. If that's the level of detail they're going for with it.
I mean, remember, like with mocap, you have that data.
Yeah.
All you need is the hardware to run it in real time.
I guess I've never seen like that detailed of mocap where you have like little dots on their lips or whatever.
You don't need dots on the lips anymore like that.
The camera just reads it.
Yeah, the camera's just that good now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You can mostly thank the people that designed the rigs for Avatar for that.
Oh.
Like James Cameron jumped motion capture way ahead.
Oh, there you
it's
go.
obviously gotten better independently since then. But yeah, you can do that. I mean, you're still wearing like the dots and stuff, but like in the same way that the Oculus can track your fingers, like these things
same
can track
tech,
your face.
basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Matter of fact, there's a guy, if you see this on Twitter, it's on Twitter if you go looking, there's a guy who has rigged up a mocap program in Dreams that involves
What?
strapping a PS4 controller to your head and the back of your head and taping string to the different controls and then onto your face, and when you move it moves a button and it makes like it's a video of him like doing all these facial things, and the character on the screen is doing his facial.
I'll dig
facial
that up
motions.
and try to get it curated to sit.
It's
so people can check it
mocap
out.
is in a whole new world at this point.
Actually,
it's
send me
about,
the link to that
It's
if you
about to
think about
become
it.
like a consumer available tech.
That's great.
So
that's great.
buckle up.
We have a lot more exclusives to get, or debuts to get through. Next up, Godfall. So we got to see the first in-engine Xbox One Series X game, and then followed up by the first in-engine PlayStation 5 game. This game is coming from Gearbox. It
We
is a
learn even
PS5
less
exclusive.
about.
Yeah. What do you think of the look of this game?
Yeah, I thought it was too human too. at
Yeah.
first. Also, it's not Gearbox.
Oh, they're publishing.
They're basically like lifting it up, but it's
Yeah.
a different. I don't remember the developer.
Yeah, they're not developing it. It's Gearbox Publishing is handling the publishing of it.
Gearbox is like kind of shepherding it through with 2K or something, or with Sony or whatever. It's so yeah. Gearbox is basically their agent.
Yeah.
On this.
Yeah.
And they talked a little bit about finding the game, being presented the game, and being like, we will do anything we need to do to help you get this published.
How do you feel about this being the first PS5 game revealed?
I mean, it looks visually very impressive, but I don't know anything about it, and I don't know why I'm supposed to care. I guess it's a slasher looter. they said?
Yeah, it says loot slasher.
Yeah.
Instead of a loot
Looter
shooter,
it's
it's
a
a
looter
hack and
slasher.
slash with loot.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's very much in my wheelhouse, but like I need to see the game before this is basically a real-time cutscene.
Yeah. It's just in-engine cinematics, basically. But if you're Sony, I mean, you would think Sony probably had to sign off on this. But if you were
some degree, yeah.
if you were Sony, would you have signed off on this being the first PlayStation 5 game the public ever sees?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I think because I don't care about this one that much.
Yeah.
I want to care about, I care about the presentation of our first-party stuff and kind of our hardline partners. This is basically a throwaway third-party game that, like, sure, it's not nothing, but it's also sort of the least revealing of anything. If people don't react positively to this, like, you don't really need to worry about it because it's not a major franchise, it's not an important IP to Sony, and on top of that, like, the vast majority of people who, like, the mainstream consumers are never going to know that was shown. So
you don't think they'll ever
matter.
even see that? The mainstream consumers.
I mean, they'll see it when they show up in like some larger profile thing or get advertised on like baseball or the Olympics or something this year. But like, I don't think they'll ever know this happened.
Okay.
Game Awards are watched by a couple million people, but like,
I just wonder if
none of my casual gaming friends even know it exists. Like,
you mean the award show?
the award show at all, let alone these.
Yeah,
what ran
something
on it.
like this to me transcends the award show, though. First ever in-engine footage of
None
a
of them know it
PlayStation
happened.
5 game. So that hasn't
has not
made
penetrated
its way out,
and
Okay.
probably won't because that's not a very interesting visual.
Okay,
frankly.
because to me,
If they showed like God of War 2 or like some major franchise that people like knew about, and like that would probably make the rounds faster, and I think Sony knows that.
Yeah, see, that's why I would suggest that the first time they show a game running on PS5, it's a game like that instead of something like this, because this could leave a negative impression on people.
I don't think it does.
Okay.
It looks fine. It looks great. But like, it's just not a thing I care about because it's not established, and I don't know what it is. I don't have enough information to know if I care about this new thing, and because it's a new thing, I don't have the built-in hype for a thing that I'm familiar with. So it's actually like a super safe thing to put on this what is basically a niche show to make us feel like we're happy and we got a thing, we got a PS5 tidbit. And also, it doesn't make it look like Sony's got no answer to Microsoft unveiling the new system in the same show.
I wonder, too, if Jeff used that as a bargaining
I think that's definitely
as a bargaining chip to get, next up, Bravely Default 2. This was kind of a surprise. 3DS JRPG that had a huge cult following gets a sequel on Switch.
Like, I thought it was going to be Octopath 2 at first. But I'm happy with this.
It looks like a 3DS game running on Switch, though.
I mean, it looks like Bravely Default.
It does.
It's definitely. I mean, and I'm fine with that. I like Bravely Default. So
I did too, but it's a handheld game that ran on a processor that was in calculators.
Yeah, well, for a lot of people, this will also be a handheld game.
Yeah.
Not me.
I mean, that is kind of the interesting thing about Switch is that I guess depending on your perspective, it will have an effect on how you view the software for it.
Well, I don't care. Like, I like Bravely Default, and I like the 3DS's output, and if you want to give me, since the 3DS and no equivalent exists anymore, if you want to give me games like that on the Switch, I am completely fine with that. Yeah. Also, that looks way better than anything the 3DS can do.
Well, yeah, but...
Like, the art style is still the same.
But look at the character model.
Yeah, but the art style's, that's the art style. That's what Bravely Default looks like.
Well, it's weird because that art style kind of exists because it was originally a 3DS game where they couldn't use a ton of polygons.
Yeah, but you could say that about almost half the indie games that are made today. Like,
but
does Katana Zero have to look like that? No, but they chose it because that's what they want it to look like.
My point is that its technical limitations are sort of being swapped out for quote unquote house style now. Like,
I think that's like basic art though. Like, that's like, like it's like how the art of Star Wars comes in part from all they could manage to do with physical effects in 1977. Like, limitations are good. Limitations make you more creative most of the time. And the fact that they found this thing that works for this, and they're just going to make it look, the grass is prettier. The clothes are more detailed. Like, but it's the same art style. And as soon as I saw those characters, I'm like, oh, it's Bravely Default.
I mean, that's why they use that shot in the trailer for sure.
So, like, yeah, I'm fine with it. You got stuff that worked on the 3DS. Keep it rolling. Like, frankly, I wish Phoenix Wright was still 2D hand-drawn art. I don't really like the 3D stuff. So
I'd agree with that.
Keep it rolling if it works.
Next up, Sons of the Forest. This game actually has been around for a long time. It was just called The Forest, though.
I thought it was a sequel to The Forest.
The Forest was never finished. If you go back and look at
I have The Forest. I just don't think I've ever played it.
If you go back and look at their YouTube channel for the studio, The Forest never released.
Well, it's been out for a long time, like in whatever early access you want to call it.
Right.
I know because it updates on my Steam like every 5 days.
Yeah. This looks like they've taken a more supernatural angle towards it than what they had worked on before. It appears that you're flying into an island on a helicopter, it crashes, and suddenly you're in like supernatural hell.
Reminded me a little bit of The Hunt.
Yeah, I can see that. Doesn't really move the needle much for me, though.
No.
One of the smaller reveals from the show. Next,
I thought it was the title reveal was pretty funny though.
Oh,
it's like Sons of the Forest. I'm like, okay,
it's a weird game for sure. Like this scene, I think that scene there was one of the more memorable scenes. Like I'll remember from the Game Awards.
The multi-limb dancer.
Yeah, on the tree. Yeah, like for whatever, it's seared into my memory probably forever. Next up, No More Heroes 3. They didn't show much of this in the Game Awards. They showed like a 30, 45-second snippet.
Expanded trailer online.
But then online, it's like 6 minutes long. It's like this VHS cartoon from the 80s that kind of sets up the plot of the game. This game is insane. I mean, we kind of knew it was going to be, but after this, I have like no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's confusing. I don't know. To some people, it's probably confusing and bewildering in all the best ways.
Well, it seems to be kind of like a take on the 80s nostalgia thing. Because look, like, No More Heroes has always been pretty sharp satire. The first one more than the second one, I would say. But, like, this is E.T. by way of Stranger Things. And then E.T. comes back 20 years later obsessed with Marvel movies. Like, that's, like, I mean, I think this is a really clever premise to go with.
Sure.
And like and
it just doesn't,
and then you introduce the No More Heroes concept and Travis, and like this thing could be completely off the rails.
Like I hope it is.
It sounds
we need more
really
games
cool.
like that.
Yeah.
And this is still a Switch exclusive, I believe.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't
think it is.
No?
I think it might also be on PC. I can't remember.
I can check real quick. Nope, just Switch.
The Switch.
Yep. But my guess is it'll eventually come out for everything else.
Yeah.
But look, you can find the full thing on Sifted. I highly recommend you check it out. It kind of sold it short on the Game Awards because you're just kind of watching this cartoon. You're like, what is this? Like, how does this relate to No More Heroes? You really kind of got to watch the whole thing to get it. Mm-hmm. But good idea and really creative and well executed. Like, it's a pretty good 80s cartoon.
I mean, it looks way better than anything in the 80s.
It does, yeah.
So.
Yeah, the animation quality is way better. Next up, Ruin King, League of Legends story. So there is an imprint inside Riot that is publishing games that aren't League of Legends. And there are tons of projects in the works. We saw some of them during Riot's 10-year thing that they just did like a few weeks ago. This is like the first single-player, story-driven, presuming an action-adventure, we don't really know yet, set in the League of Legends universe. For whatever reason, Gangplank, which is probably one of my least favorite League of Legends characters, is like the center of the lore for League of Legends. And he's a pirate, and so as you can see, this trailer... Yeah, and as you can see, this trailer takes place on the seas. It's smart for Riot to be doing this, to get its character and its characters and its IP out into other genres, to get people hooked on them, and then maybe they try out League.
And they've got a lot more. I mean, they have literal like phone books full of like backstory and lore for this world that like no one's ever seen because it's all internal.
Yeah. But we used to make fun of calling, we'd say Riot Game instead of Riot Games, plural. But now they are Riot Games. So they have League, and they've shown us, 3 or 4 other games at this point. So they're turning into like a normal publisher.
Eventually. I mean, these games are way out.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see any of that stuff probably for 2 years at least.
At least.
The fighting Riot.
The fighting game I know is like, they said years until alpha.
Yeah.
So it's a long way out.
Well, they had Seth Killian there, and he left, right? Is he still there?
No, Seth left a long time ago. Yeah. He went to Fortnite.
Right. That's right. Everybody goes to Fortnite.
Yeah. Everybody wants to live in Raleigh.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but they know that's a money train that's not pulling into the station anytime soon. It's going to keep on rolling. Next up, Weird West. This is by Wolf Eye Studios. It is mostly comprised of former Arcane Studios developers, so they made games like Prey and Dishonored. So I suspected that its first game would be this, this immersive sim where you can do anything, you can be anyone, you can play it however you want, but no, Matt.
Budgets are a thing once you leave the Bethesda fold.
It's an isometric action RPG. I never would have guessed that. Maybe they're smart and they're like, you know what, we're not spending our own money on these games that don't sell. Bethesda can do that, but we won't.
And also, maybe it's what they wanted to make.
That's true.
And couldn't. I mean, you might have a guerrilla game situation here. Everyone's like, well, what? They're making an open world third-person action RPG? Like, all they do is make Killzone. It's like, well, guess what? They were way better at the action RPG than they were at Killzone.
Yeah, that's true.
Who knows? This might be what they really wanted to do.
It does have a really cool premise. It has a very cool look to it. Mm-hmm. The Wild West, to me, is something that should be explored more in video games.
It's definitely an underused setting.
Yep, for sure.
Especially horror in the Wild West.
Yep.
Which seems to be at least a factor here.
Yep. So it looks interesting. My guess is we'll see more of this soon. Some of these other games probably not.
Weird West makes me think there's Lovecraft here.
Oh yeah, for sure. But certainly a surprise to see that coming from people who used to make Prey and Dishonored and all that immersive sim type stuff. Next up, arguably the biggest game trailer from the show, unless you're really hyped about Hellblade 2 or Godfall, Ghost of Tsushima showed a brand new trailer, 5 minutes long, pretty long trailer. They had teased it before with like a 30-second snippet, and then they showed the full thing at the Game Awards. Matt, we all know that you are hyped over the moon for this game. How did you like this trailer?
It was good. I mean, we still don't really get a whole lot.
But mostly story-driven.
Mostly story-driven, but I like what I see. I do question why sometimes it's in Japanese and sometimes it's in English.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
I don't know what the rule on that will be. Again, like I said before, I think the use of color in this is phenomenal. Like, Sucker Punch is one of the best when it comes to using color in games. even like just the way you see early on, this is all like yellow and they're green, and the green and red stands out, and then the dark of the ghost stands out because he's in black. But then by the end of the trailer, after they have the fight, and he goes and says, he basically does the Batman thing and says, "Go tell your friends about me," kind of thing. When he turns and walks back to the sun, like into the light, there, the leaves have turned red.
Yeah,
to be blood, and it's like I love what they're doing with the visuals with this. Like, we still don't know a whole lot about the actual combat and how everything's going to work, but it does seem to be oddly close to my whole, like, people used to ask me, if you had unlimited budget, like, what game would you make? And I used to say, like, I would make an open world feudal Japan ninja game.
There you go.
This is pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't know how open world it is yet, though.
I think it's pretty, judging by that first peak, it's pretty open. I mean, it's at least like Witcher 3 open, Witcher 2 open, where it's like big open locations.
So it's probably like God of War open, you think?
I don't know. I think it might be full open. I think more than Infamous open.
Okay.
I mean, there's big areas here.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, looking at Infamous, its prior games, that would make sense, absolutely. To me, the best part of the trailer was the end, where they do a montage of like all this stuff that we've never seen from the game, and they're just these quick cuts that really kind of show you how the game is going to be played and kind of what the gameplay loop is going to be like, what the combat's going to be like. The game is freaking gorgeous, man.
Yeah, I also like that they're not going fantasy with it.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be any... It's not, Sekiro and Nioh kind of have that covered. Like, we don't need any 20-foot ogres. We don't need
supernatural stuff.
Yeah, it's just going to be samurai.
Blades.
It's not really historically accurate, but it's just going to be people.
Yep.
So I'm cool with that.
Looking hot. Next up, this is a trailer that changed my mind the most on a game at the Game Awards, and that is Gears Tactics. First trailer for this was shown. I was very pleasantly surprised by this. The production values in this are like freaking ridiculous. It's like you were saying earlier, giving big budgets to ideas that don't usually get them. This is kind of one of those deals. Like, obviously, XCOM's a great game, but they still don't have the budget that Microsoft has to pull off something like this.
They also don't have the expectation that a Gears game
That's
has.
true. But it's crazy watching it. It looks like a normal Gears of War game until they switch to the combat. Like, you can tell that the attention to detail, the investment in this game, definitely probably the most expensive turn-based strategy game ever made, would be my guess.
Pretty close.
And it's good to see kind of this level of production values in this genre. Not that XCOM looks bad or anything. It looks great, but this is a different level for sure. I'm really excited for it. This could end up becoming like a pretty big franchise for Microsoft going forward. So I thought it had a really, really good showing, despite the fact that Gears 5 really got shut out at the Game Awards. I saw Rod Ferguson posting some stuff on Twitter where he was pretty bummed. That's the way it is, though. And I would say this, too. If you couldn't win this year, then this was your year. Like, this was the year the door was kind of open for a lot of games to kind of slide in there and get an award. And if you didn't,
I don't know where I would have put Gears. I mean, Gears 5 I think was nominated for the right stuff, but I certainly wouldn't have picked it to win any of
the categories. And then last and certainly least, Fast and Furious Crossroads.
Yeah, wow. I mean, this probably plays well because it is by the Project Cars team, but wow. I mean, the characters look like, what is this PS3 ass like looking animation? Like,
the crazy thing is it's being made by Slightly Mad, which is great. Like, they're a good studio. Like, why does this game look so crap?
Well, the cars look fine. Like, everything but the people look fine, I think. The driving, I'm sure, will be good.
But you can see, like, if you watch really close, like, there's no physics, like, on the cars, really. Like, whenever they take turns, like,
there will be. I mean, it's Project Cars. I mean, they're gonna get there. The problem is, I don't know if these guys have ever done people before.
Maybe,
you know, and like, it was doubly weird because, like, you just saw Michelle Rodriguez and Vin Diesel, and then you see this, and you're like, "Oh my!" Like,
see him like the real person.
You might want to have a word with someone because I just got to very, very closely compare the real you to this you, and I don't know if they've done you justice.
Yep.
Also, it was a little weird that Jeff introduced Michelle Rodriguez, who then introduced this trailer, and then introduced Vin Diesel, who then introduced the orchestra,
who then introduced the Game of the Year awards.
Yeah, after talking for 5 minutes about things that we didn't even know about.
Yeah,
because I don't think they'd seen each other in a while.
Yeah, it seemed that way. I mean, I understand why it closed the show because they were two big celebrities.
Is Vin Diesel the biggest person that's ever been on the TGAs? I mean, like most famous, not like largest human. I mean, he might be the largest.
To like the general
person.
public, probably.
Yeah. Like the most recognizable famous person, like he might be.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I understand why they did it. It's just a shame to close the show with such a bad-looking game.
Yeah, it's got a ways to go. I hope.
Definitely, I hope it does. I hope it's like 2 years out. It needs to be.
I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, they got two. I mean, next year we got Fast 9, and the year after we got Fast 10. So if you wanted to push it to 2021, like there's still a movie to release it on the back of there. So
okay,
you could.
Yeah.
But I think Fast 10, they're going to space to rescue a clone of Han. So, I don't know. That's my theory.
That would be great. I would watch a Fast and the Furious movie again if that actually happened.
I think there is almost no doubt they are going to space, and I will also not rule out time travel.
Oh, hopefully it turns out better than when Jason went to space from Friday the 13th.
Yeah, just about anything would.
That was so bad. Okay, so that's the reveals. We're just going to put a bow on the Game Awards by talking about the actual awards briefly. Were there any awards that stood out to you where you were like, what? Like, how did that game win that category?
No, I mean, my big what was Disco Elysium wins 4 awards and isn't nominated for Game of the Year, while the RPG that didn't win anything was.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of a slant, but, like, come on. Like, I mean, it's weird that, like, they got all those awards right, because those are basically what I would have picked, too, for Disco Elysium. But then it's not in the top slot. I don't know if anything else won as many awards as it did.
It may have been the game that won the most, now that I think about it.
So I don't know.
But it wasn't there.
That's my main thing. I think Game of the Year was pretty dead on. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect Sekiro to win, but, like, hey, awesome. I wonder if that was more like the only game everyone could agree on.
It might be. Like, I mean, it's tough this year. Picking Game of the Year, this is easily the toughest year I've had since Sifted launched.
Yeah,
and even looking back before that, it's up there.
I like that Control got some love.
Yeah. What do you think about Kojima winning game direction?
Yeah, won game direction, but it wasn't the best game of the year. That's interesting.
The inevitable best game director award.
Yeah, I don't think there was any way around that. But
I mean, don't you think that the journalists just voted for him?
Maybe.
I mean, I don't think Jeff would fudge the vote.
I don't think he would either. I just feel like there's sort of like this feeling. It's like, he's flying all the way over here. It was basically the Death Stranding preview show for 3 years. Like, we might as well recognize. But it's like, if Kojima's the best director, how is that not best narrative?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because since that's his whole thing.
Yeah. It didn't win anything.
How did it not win best music? It did win best music.
Oh, it did, yeah.
It did win best music.
Yeah, that's right.
And it did have a good soundtrack.
It earns that, yeah.
Kojima has a fine playlist on his iPod.
Yeah, he has a good taste in music,
definitely.
for sure. Yeah. There weren't any awards that really stuck out for me, but I think a big problem is that the award, and we're about to do our Game of the Year awards, but the awards this year are really splitting hairs. Like, some of the awards, I sat there yesterday thinking about them for a really long time, and I just finally was like, you know what? I can't rationalize this. Which one did I enjoy the most? And that's generally what I ended up giving the awards for. So it's really hard to begrudge any award, Game of the Year awards in 2019, because it really is just like, what do you like? Yeah, and like it's just so... It's so hard to compare some of the best things because they were so disparate and so specific to, like, taste. Yeah. And, it's weird that Resident Evil 2 didn't win anything. But then when you think about it, it's like there's some stuff stacked against it. Being a remake, being so early in the year, being an old highest
game.
reviewed Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Didn't win anything. It's crazy. That's the way it goes sometimes. So anyway, that's the Game Awards 2019. I enjoyed them. I had a great time watching them and working during the awards. Again, I think it's a little long. I think you could probably chop 30, 45 minutes off of it, and I don't think anyone would be worse for the wear. No, there might be financial considerations there, because there were more commercial blocks this year than
a lot of commercials. I mean, that's how you pay for the show.
It is, absolutely.
It's but there were a couple of weird ads. Now I can't remember what they were. There was one particular ad. I think it was a Sony ad or something. Where I was like, "What the hell is that?" Now I can't remember what it was. I specifically remember reacting to one ad where I'm like, "Okay, sure."
Letter grade for the Game Awards 2019.
As an awards show, I'd probably give it like a C+. As a commercial advertainment show, I'd probably give it like an A-.
Yeah, I think I would give it a flat A, honestly. I love Grimes. That certainly helps a lot, because I never expected her to be there to perform. So that was a pleasant surprise. I thought Jeff did a great job getting guests across the spectrum. There were just top shelf people.
Oh, the Stadia ad. Thank you, Snub Barracuda. The Stadia ads were like, what?
Oh, yeah, they were like goofy.
They're good. Well, they're from the launch. I mean, they've been around for a while. I've seen them before, but like, they're still listing bullet points that don't exist yet in the Surface, and it's like, one day I'm sure you'll be able to do all those things, but you can't right now, suckers. Like,
I mean, I honestly struggle to think of ways for Jeff to improve the show, and I think when you get to that point, that's a pretty good sign that he's doing a pretty damn good job. So, flat A for me. Like, I have to leave the A+ open there for him if he somehow improves it, but this is really kind of in its groove at this point.
Yeah. At least Green Book didn't win.
Green Book.
That's the Oscars this year.
Oh.
The Oscars this year, the best.
I thought you were using a play on words between Green Day and something else.
No, I'm talking about of the very poor Best Picture choice this year. It was a much more satisfying show in the end because it at least gave the best of the year award to a good thing.
Okay. All right, so there you go. That's this special edition of GameFace, just to wrap up the Game Awards and talk about Xbox Series X. We are about to go dark here on the stream. We'll be down for just a couple minutes, and then we're coming right back with our Game of the Year awards for 2019. Some of you are watching the archives. Maybe you don't watch our Game of the Year awards. Before I sign off on GameFace for the year, I just want to thank each and every one of you for all your support this year. It's been a great year in 2019. We're going to have an even better 2020, people. We got some big announcements coming up for early in the year next year, and so we'll see you then. So everybody stick around in the stream. The stream's not going to go down. It's just going to go to dark for a couple seconds, and we're going to come back up with our Game of the Year awards, and we're going to hand it out 24 different categories we have this year. So it's going to be a big show. So everybody, have a great day. Have a great holiday season. GameFace is up and out.